From the very first line, the story does not ease into its subject, but strikes directly at the heart of a disturbing historical reality. Beauty, that which is often celebrated as a blessing in modern times, could once be a sentence to misery. Imagine a world where the smooth skin and delicate features of a boy did not bring admiration or opportunity, but instead painted a target on his back. In such societies, perfection of form was not a gift, but a dangerous liability, and those who possessed it were often condemned to lives stripped of freedom, dignity, and selfhood. History has preserved countless records of young boys who, through no fault of their own, were chosen for roles they could neither understand nor escape. To be selected was not an honor. It was the beginning of a transformation into something other than human, into a commodity to be displayed, consumed, and discarded. The narrative begins with one of those children, taken at the threshold of adolescence. He does not yet grasp the weight of his fate, only the unease of being singled out. As the wooden cart jolts across the stones of his village path, the wheels creaking beneath him, the boy feels the severing of ties he cannot mend. Those who wave to him are not celebrating. They are mourning silently, knowing they may never see him again. Centuries ago, societies across empires shared a chillingly similar practice. The Ottoman palaces, the Chinese courts, the Byzantine halls, all employed systematic methods to acquire the youngest and fairest among their people. These selections were neither random nor impulsive. They were deliberate, refined, and carried out with the precision of men who viewed themselves not as kidnappers, but as professionals. Each movement, every evaluation, was honed over decades of practice, forming a machinery of exploitation so polished that it almost resembled an art. In the Ottoman world, this process intersected with the empire's official systems. On the surface, the devshirme was designed to recruit boys from Christian villages to be trained as elite soldiers. Yet behind this practice, hidden but understood, ran a parallel current: the harvesting of children for lives in the palace harem. The sububashis, imperial agents skilled in human appraisal, moved through Balkan villages with trained eyes and calloused hands. Their presence struck terror, for they were not raiders who came and left in chaos. They were inspectors, hunters of beauty, men who could change a child's life with a single nod. One of these boys was Mikhail, a child of 13. He had heard whispers, but never imagined the day would come when strangers would stand before him, scrutinizing his every feature. The selector examined Mikhail's face as though it were a gemstone, tilting it toward the sunlight, tracing the line of his jaw, parting his lips to reveal the straightness of his teeth. Approval was silent, but it was there in the curt nods and parchment notes. Perfect teeth meant value, smooth skin meant promise, and every inch of his body was weighed not as flesh and blood, but as merchandise. The humiliation was intentional. By commanding a boy to remove his shirt, to walk in silence, to submit without resistance, the selectors began the process of reshaping him. Each touch, each order, reminded the child that his own body no longer belonged to him. It was now property, soon to be perfected for the satisfaction of others. Mothers wept as they watched, powerless under the gaze of armed guards who enforced silence with the threat of violence. A protest could cost more than a voice. It could cost a life. The criteria for these selections were astonishingly specific. A boy must not only possess beauty, but beauty of a particular kind: symmetry of features, grace in movement, pliability of mind. His hair must be thick, his posture fluid, his hands delicate but strong. Even temperament was measured. Too much spirit could make him dangerous to control. Too little spark could render him uninteresting. The ideal was malleability, the ability to be shaped and reshaped endlessly to the needs of the palace. These same rituals repeated across cultures. In China, eunuch administrators used poetic terms to describe the qualities they sought: eyes like autumn water, skin like white jade, movements like flowing silk. Their assessments were not less rigorous for being couched in beauty. They studied hands and feet, voices and expressions, seeking that perfect balance of refinement and adaptability. In Byzantium, ideals drawn from Greek philosophy guided the search, where harmony of features symbolized not only physical perfection, but supposed spiritual worth. For all their cultural differences, the unifying principle remained: beauty was currency. It could be harvested, catalogued, bought, and sold. Behind the walls of palaces, boys who once played in fields or studied in village schools became objects of investment, symbols of prestige, instruments of pleasure. Their childhoods ended the moment a selector's eyes fixed upon them. The first chapter of their story is not of choice or chance, but of a systematic transformation. From human to possession, from child to commodity. This was the beginning of lives lived not for themselves, but for the desires of those who claimed ownership of their beauty. The morning air is cool when the next phase begins. The selectors, having chosen their candidates, now move deeper into the process of evaluation. What appears at first glance to be an inspection is in truth an elaborate ritual, refined over centuries to transform boys into property. Every step, every gesture, serves to erase the individuality of the child and replace it with the identity of a possession. The examination chamber is stark, lit by oil lamps and scented with incense meant to mask the fear that lingers in the air. Here, the chosen boys are stripped not only of their clothes, but of the last shreds of autonomy they once possessed. A chief examiner enters, his movements calm, his authority absolute. He is not hurried, for this is a task performed countless times, and precision is his craft. Behind him, assistants carry scrolls, calipers, and small tools designed not for healing, but for measuring the worth of flesh. Ahmad, 14 years old, steps forward. He does not resist. Resistance has already been drained from him by fear and the knowledge that his future no longer belongs to him. The examiner runs his fingers through Ahmad's hair, tugging sharply to test its strength. He turns the boy's head to catch the light, scrutinizing proportions, measuring the symmetry of eyes and nose. A metal probe pries at his teeth, checking for alignment and health. Each detail is carefully recorded, not as attributes of a person, but as specifications of an object. When Ahmad is told to speak, his voice cracks under the strain of terror. But even this fracture is noted with satisfaction. The examiner remarks on the clarity, the pleasing pitch, the potential for training. In this moment, Ahmad realizes that even his voice, the instrument of his thoughts and identity, has been reduced to another commodity for others to refine and exploit. The inspection grows more invasive. His skin is pinched and stretched, his muscles prodded, his posture adjusted. His hands are examined with clinical care, fingers bent and tested for flexibility, nails inspected for shape and strength. His feet, too, are judged, not for the miles they have walked in the soil of his homeland, but for their delicacy, for their capacity to fit the mold of refinement demanded by the palace. But perhaps the most chilling element is the psychological testing. The examiner does not merely measure the body, he measures the spirit. He asks Ahmad questions designed to expose fears, dreams, and weaknesses. What do you fear most? The boy whispers that he fears never seeing his family again. The examiner nods, satisfied, noting that such fear indicates the potential for emotional attachment, a bond that, with training, can be redirected toward his masters. In that moment, Ahmad learns that even his deepest sorrow has been catalogued as a tool of control. Tests of obedience follow. Ahmad is ordered to raise his hand, kneel, turn in a circle, walk with deliberate grace. Each movement is studied, each hesitation noted. The purpose is not only to gauge compliance, but to begin the conditioning that will define his existence. The examiner observes how quickly Ahmad adapts, how fluidly he executes commands, how his body naturally conveys a mixture of grace and submission. These qualities will shape his place in the palace hierarchy. Pain tolerance is measured as well. A needle pricks his skin. Pressure is applied to his joints. Ahmad flinches but does not cry out. The examiner notes approvingly that he can endure discomfort, making him suitable for the rigorous training ahead. Even his ability to suffer is treated as a marketable asset. The evaluation culminates in classification. Metal tags are hung around the boys' necks, each engraved with a number and a symbol that defines their rank. Ahmad's tag marks him for the highest category, elite training reserved for those whose beauty and temperament promise the greatest return on investment. He does not understand the implications, only that his fate is sealed. Around him, some boys weep quietly, while others stare into emptiness, retreating inward to survive the humiliation. The bureaucracy of this system is meticulous. Records are kept with the precision of an accountant, listing not only physical attributes, but emotional tendencies, pain thresholds, and aesthetic potential. Boys are transformed into entries on parchment, their humanity erased by ink and classification. 17 examined, 14 approved, 3 rejected, numbers that reduce human lives to statistics in a ledger of exploitation. By the time the examination ends, the transformation is complete. These children, who entered as sons, brothers, and individuals, now leave as numbered assets of the palace. Their chains clink softly as they are led away, the sound marking the first steps into a future crafted not by their own will, but by the desires of those who claim ownership over them. The journey does not end with selection. For Ahmad and the others, the gates of the examination chamber open only to reveal the training halls of the palace, where their bodies and minds will be reshaped to fit the roles demanded of them. This place is both school and prison, designed not to nurture but to erase, to overwrite every trace of a past life with the polished veneer of obedience. The first lesson is silence. From dawn to dusk, the boys are drilled in the art of suppressing their voices, of speaking only when commanded, of bowing their heads when addressed. Tutors move among them like shadows, correcting posture with sharp strikes of rods, enforcing discipline through fear. Ahmad learns quickly that hesitation invites punishment, and that the smallest mistake, a glance held too long, a sigh at the wrong moment, results in pain. Slowly, he begins to internalize the rhythm of obedience, his body responding almost before his mind registers the order. Physical training is relentless. They are taught to walk with measured grace, to kneel with elegance, to move as if their limbs are instruments of ceremony rather than flesh and bone. Hours are spent practicing gestures, the precise angle of a bow, the delicate placement of hands when serving, the controlled motion of lifting a goblet or arranging a garment. Every movement must convey refinement, for their worth lies not in who they are, but in how flawlessly they can perform the image demanded of them. But the training is not limited to posture and grace. The boys are instructed in music, in poetry, in the recitation of verses meant to please the ears of nobles. Ahmad's voice, once cracked with fear, is now molded into something melodic, taught to carry both charm and submission. He learns instruments he had never seen before, his fingers disciplined into producing beauty on command. What was once his personal expression becomes another tool of service, another layer of artifice covering the boy he used to be. Psychological conditioning deepens as well. Tutors manipulate emotions with precision, alternating between kindness and cruelty to break down resistance. At times, Ahmad is praised for his progress, offered sweets, told he shows promise. The warmth almost feels genuine, a flicker of humanity in a world that has stripped him bare. Yet the very next day, he is humiliated before the others, punished for imagined faults, reminded that he is nothing without his masters. This cycle of reward and fear plants confusion, binding him more tightly to the authority that dictates his fate. Nights are the most difficult. In the silence of the dormitories, whispers rise among the boys, fragments of memories from the homes they left behind, names of mothers, scents of bread baking, laughter of siblings. Ahmad sometimes joins them, his voice trembling as he recalls the river near his village, the songs his father sang at dusk. Yet with each passing month, the memories grow fainter, replaced by drills and commands. Soon, even the whispers fade, silenced by exhaustion and despair. The past becomes a dream, fragile and slipping away. Rivalries form under the pressure. Some boys, desperate to survive, push others down, currying favor by reporting mistakes or demonstrating superiority. Friendships are rare, fragile bonds easily broken by fear. Ahmad finds himself torn between the instinct to protect others and the necessity of protecting himself. In this cruel hierarchy, compassion becomes a liability, and trust a dangerous luxury. The transformation is gradual but absolute. Within a year, the boys who once entered as trembling captives now move with elegance, speak with rehearsed eloquence, and submit without question. Their individuality has been buried beneath layers of training, replaced by the cultivated image of perfection demanded by the palace. They are no longer sons, no longer villagers, no longer boys with dreams. They are instruments, polished, refined, and ready to serve. For Ahmad, the greatest tragedy is not the loss of freedom, but the slow erasure of self. He feels his memories dulling, his sense of belonging fading. When he looks into the polished bronze mirrors of the training hall, he sees a figure dressed in fine fabrics, posture graceful, eyes lowered in practiced humility. Yet inside, a small voice still whispers of who he was, of the boy who once laughed by the river, who once hoped for a life of his own choosing. Whether that voice will survive the years ahead remains uncertain. For the system is relentless, and its purpose is clear: to ensure that no echo of the past remains, only the perfected silence of possession. Thank you so much for watching and staying with us until the very end of this story. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more hidden chapters of history brought to life, please give it a like, share it with friends who love history, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. It helps keep these forgotten voices alive and inspires us to continue creating more stories for you. See you in the next episode.